Hi, and welcome to another episode presented by yours truly, Cryptids Roost. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button, and don't forget to smack the ass of that subscription button as well. This will help with the YouTube's algorithm and will help promote the channel more. If you would like to support the channel and help make it grow, all donations can be made to paypal.me/cryptidsroost and would be gratefully received. And don't forget to check out the merch store. All the links are listed below. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. My job requires me to clean up Roadkill and hunt Cryptids, Part 6, the finale. This fantastic series is written by author Jojo, a wonderful author over on Reddit's NoSleep. If you're not down on the mat, you're not out. I spent a good long time thinking after I wrote my last entry. It's morning now. Feels weird writing this so early. Normally the sun is either long gone or it's just coming up. I didn't sleep much. Seems to be a running theme lately. I sat in my yard for a good long while. I sat and talked with her. I remembered the pain, how it didn't compare to the bruises I suffered. Most cryptids aren't out to hurt people, but when they do, I'm called in. I started doing this to help others escape my pains. My emotions have settled, and while it's not the most rational thought that could have entered my mind, I was knocked down, my back was on the mat and the 10 count was ringing in my ear. I still have one last push in me, because the purple man isn't going to just stop at me. He'll move on to other hunters and beat them into submission, or outright kill them. I wasn't just giving up a lifestyle if I decided to stop. I was putting others at risk. I spent so much time hunting down cryptids, learning their ins and outs, what to avoid and what to exploit. As I sat in the backyard with her, I couldn't help but shift my gaze to the cold storage and think of the cryptids I had recently caught. About how I would go about setting a trap that stood a chance of overpowering the purple man. Lucky for me, I already had the perfect bait. He would be coming to me. I've got a lot of work to do before I head out tonight. I'm going to be spending all day in cold storage. I'll write what happens tonight should I make it back. As I said, I spent a good long time surrounded by the cryptids I had hunted in the past week, tinkering away at anything that I could give me an advantage, but nothing I had was going to be enough to put it down. While I didn't know for sure, I needed to go overboard and plan for something big to happen. I'd need more than just some clever tools. I'd need help. I pulled a dusty blue tarp away from the motorcycle that had been sitting dormant since I started the roadkill work. To my complete elation, the girl started up, purring to life. The gear I had prepared wasn't heavy or troublesome, apart from the small speaker and microphone I had strung to my back. The rest was all a roll of the dice, something I'd never done before, but with light getting low, I had to start. The motorcycle took me away from the house for what could have been the last time. I drove for miles before coming across them again, a roaming group of jobbins deep enough in the woods that their red lights were barely visible from the road. Putting the kickstand down, I let myself breathe and then began what was going to be a very long night. All while I worked, I could feel the sensation of being observed, every step judged. Even as I grabbed a sturdy branch and wrapped it with an old t-shirt, dousing it in lighter fluid with a small drop of vanilla, I felt gaze. With the branch lit, I guided the pack trying to back away from the fire, humming their tune ever so gingerly. They would zip around me, filling the gaps between the trees with a brilliant strobe of red lighting. When we reached the road, I quickly extinguished the flame and put down a small berry-scented candle. With the wick lit, they should be attracted to it for long enough. I had no idea how long it would take for the purple man to show up if he wasn't already there waiting for me to slip up. I was acting fast, but trying to remain aware of my surroundings, even through the song of the jobbins. I placed the microphone under the red choir and then the speaker as far away in the brush as the cord would allow. With leaves and brush I did my best to hide the speaker. If that would do any good, I didn't know. I stepped back to make sure everything was in place and then I waited. He would come. I didn't want to kill a jobbin and he knew that. He wouldn't let that happen. And sure enough, closing my eyes to blink just for a brief moment was enough time for him to slip into view when my eyes reopened. He stood on the opposite side of the jobbins. A pack of red lights separated us. Same duster wrapping his body. I could see him clear as day now, not only from the glow of the jobbins, but because of the furballs' incredible eyesight. They were wildly uncomfortable to wear, but what makes the furball's eyesight so powerful isn't in how their pupils receive light. In fact, their eyes are absent of pupils. Instead, their eyes have a glass-like shell that manipulates the light going into it, warping small beams of light into something more powerful. It took a while to sand the outside layer down to find a fit that I could live with. It was actually the hardest process of the night. So with the layer of glass twisting and amplifying light sources and my pupils receiving it, it's a generous billow of light. The purple man stood before me clear as day. I could now see small dark markings like symbols running up his neck and presumably the rest of his body. "What are you doing here, Jack?" he asked me, almost sounding exasperated. I replied softly that I was on the hunt. "That's what I do." A billow of laughter. "And here I thought you were some badass, but killing jobbins? Sad," he mocked, stepping forward. The red bugs drifted gently out of his way, a red sea of sorts. "They really gave you the short stick tonight." The grin he had plastered on his face quickly shifted when I told him that my hunt tonight wasn't for the jobbins and that I wasn't here on business. A curious eyebrow pushed his dark hat up ever so slightly. "Alright, Jack, if that's how it's going to be." He drifted out of my vision and back again, placing his open palm onto my shoulder. I felt his clawed fingers pushing me down, a familiar feeling of my body disobeying my orders to stand. My knees smacked against the road and we were just as it was the night before, except the road was much cleaner and I hadn't fallen into his trap. He'd fallen into mine. With all the strength I could manage, I pushed a small syringe into my skin. My mind drifted into thoughts about how it felt plunging my shovel into the dirt I had just moved a couple of days ago, how it felt to pull the Salem child from his grave. It filled me with shame to have defiled his grave, but with my thumb pressing on the syringe plunger, shame was replaced with fire. The Salem child's blood would burn under his skin until he decayed in his grave. The burning blood coursed through my veins. A noticeable glow began to wrap around my body. The purple man took curious notice. "What are you?" His question interrupted when my hand clasped around his wrist. I couldn't control the vicious and angry growl that shook my body, spitting blood to the road. Blood that had been swelling from the chunk I took out of my lip. The pain of the burning blood introduced to my body was a white-hot intensity that I had never felt before. Nothing before compared to the pain rushing through my body. Focusing slowly on the pain, as I had hoped, I was able to override whatever the purple man did to shut me down. My movements were jagged and stuttered, but I was able to raise myself up to the purple man's eye level. He looked at glare and his face contorted to something like a child who'd received a new plaything. The word "incredible" mumbled out from behind his shark teeth. He pulled his other arm up and levelled his fingers, making a sort of spear with hand. He plunged his spear hard into my chest. When he was met with resistance, when he didn't even make it through my new jacket's leather-like exterior, he scoffed. I needed to dissect the fast jacket anyway. I used a knife coated in bronze to perform a crude autopsy and free the man underneath, who was uncomfortably long gone. When I removed the fast jacket completely, I had taken note that where my bronze made contact, the fast jacket's body had burnt and became a rough dark leather. I said before I'm not much for art and crafts, but I was able to do a half decent job sewing the fast jacket's burnt skin into a jacket. The prospect of wearing this thing around was repulsive, but it worked. The purple man couldn't penetrate the fast jacket, even burnt as it was. In response to this, the purple man backed away from me and observed my form, looking for other tricks up my sleeve no doubt. He noticed the small handmade handle being held at my side by the pant's leg. "You got something to kill me, bud?" he asked. I replied by lifting a small bone-white knife from my hip, or rather, a fang. Pulling the marwolf's largest fang from his body was the easiest of the processes, but vital. Their teeth can pierce and rip apart just about anything, and if bullets or pellets weren't going to do the job, the fang would get it done. Out of my left pocket, I retrieved a small vial full of green liquid. Body still shaking from the burning blood, I smashed the vial over the fang, spilling its thick green over the smooth white. I stumbled forward at first, but once regaining my footing, the small knife was thrust forward and plunged into the purple man's chest. The fang pierced right through his clothing and skin as if I had just assaulted the air. He laughed once more, for good reason. He was confident that the small knife, even if it had broke his skin, wasn't enough to deal much damage, especially if he were to regenerate as half these cryptids do. In his arrogance though, he did let himself get cocky. I understood. I've been there 100 times before. The fang only served as a delivery method, as the fang made it to the purple man's interior. Drops of the green liquid also made their way in. Once it's doused in antibiotics and burned, the caliver's contaminant becomes a dormant virus and loses the ability to spread spores as its insides are dissolved into a paste. If the mass is kept on ice, said paste will not be toxic, but as it heats up, it begins to reactivate. It's still an incredibly potent virus, but the only way to become infected would be to ingest the virus, or have it introduced to your body's inner workings. The purple man caught wind quickly. The virus was heating up inside his body and attacking everything it could. He snarled at me. The first time he seemed more beast than man, but it wasn't enough. I knew it wasn't. Even as I watched him drop to his knees, clutching feverishly at his chest, I knew there wasn't anything I alone could do to kill him. His body was fighting the virus, and it was winning. In the short time it was in him, I could see that he was becoming calmer. I didn't have long. If I tried cutting his head off of anything of the sorts, I would simply run out of time. My jacket protected my torso and did it well, but my legs and head wouldn't be so lucky. The jobbins had started to migrate away, the candle's wick becoming black and bare, but they were still close enough. With all the anguish the burning blood had distilled in me, I hobbled over to the speaker hiding in the brush, and with the click of a button, the microphone picked up on the jobbin's song and amplified it. The song spread out like a shockwave, filling the forest around us with a most irritating hum. As the purple man continued in the clutches of the virus, slowly winning it over, I walked over to my motorcycle and started it up. The purr was drowned out completely by the song I and the purple man were wrapped in. I had no idea what this man was, and while I intended to look into it more, I knew he wasn't the top of the food chain. With all his snark and passive attitude, sometimes you just can't beat out pure pound for pound strength. It wasn't the hum of the bike's motor that was rumbling the road beneath my feet. The purple man felt it too. I could see it in his eyes, and I took one more glance. They were almost pleading, not for him, for me. Even in the lavish darkness of the defeat, he wept for me. It's too late. Nothing I or he could do would turn back time on what was about to occur. There is a very important rule that I broke tonight, and by all accounts, I shouldn't be typing this now. If something can throw a tree at you, don't fuck with it. As I saddled onto the bike, I watched the purple man's head quickly turn to the side of the road. The train was at its station. A hulking 9 foot tall, 700-pound blur crashed down on the purple man. Miraculously, the screams he let out rose above the songs. A desperate cry. They aren't violent. They aren't really. When you turn what's normally a sign of nearby food into an ear-splitting siren call, however, they might go a little ape. I wanted to watch what the hair-plastered behemoth would do to the purple man, but if I waited around too long, I'd fall victim as well. I had enough of being that. Taking a quick U-turn, I looked back to see, through the furball's eyes, a massive fist, big as a boulder, mercilessly slamming the purple man's head into the pavement, the ground vibrating with every strike. That was enough for me. I drove as fast as I could away from the scene. Thankfully the song was masking the motor. I wouldn't have to worry about cleanup. The big man would smash the speaker and likely use the purple man for food, though it wouldn't be much. Never been that close to one before. Its brown hair was surprisingly kempt. Shame I didn't get to see its face. But that's for the best. It didn't see mine either. I didn't need to piss it off more than I already had, if that was possible. I'm home now, safe for the time being. I removed my jacket and contacts. I pulled all the items away in cold storage, save for the poison. I wanted to bury them, but I might need them again. You have to have that kind of foresight in this line of work. I was spending a good amount of time slowly getting the burning blood to pour from me, so my body can replace it with a less painful red. I don't know what to do next. I think maybe I'm going to take a break. The last few days have beaten me up pretty bad, and while tonight went better than I could have hoped, I am still lost with what I'm doing. The purple man seemed to care more for cryptids and had a hatred for me that went beyond knowing I was hunting them. Like he was angry at the whole system, not to mention the markings on his skin. A shame I won't be able to retrieve his body now that I think about it. I apologise if you guys expected more from me. Maybe there will be. I'm taking a vacation from all this and going somewhere nice and warm for a while. There are things I need to look into, and if I discover anything interesting, I'll be sure to contact a lot of you. Thank you for the support and interest in my line of work. You are all part of what reminded me of it, and what it means to lose something and how important it is to protect what you still have. I buried the Salem child once again, next to my wife, just as before. I loved her, and it's hard to admit, but there was once a time I wasn't able to protect her. I didn't know how to bring it up to you guys. I didn't think it was information that was even needed. Well, anyways, I became what I am because something took her from me, something I didn't understand at the time. I wish the man I am now was able to be back there for her back then, but I wasn't. I figured if I'm leaving you guys for a while, I should tell you that at least. She always told me I needed to take a break every now and then, so here's to you, baby. Elise V. Isaacs, my Elvis. Wow, that was a fantastic story. And if you enjoyed listening to this chronicle, be sure to pop over to the author's Reddit profile, Author Jojo, and drop them a line, or even give them a glowing review. The link to their Reddit profile will be below in the description. And if you enjoyed my narration, then please feel free to like and share the video, leave a comment below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. Please be so kind as to visit our merchandise store and grab yourself a t-shirt, face mask, mug, hoodie, or whatever else grabs your fancy. There's plenty there to choose from. The link will be in the description. And if you'd like an honourable mention, send in a snapshot of yourself with your purchase from the merch store, and I'll feature it in one of my videos. You can submit your stories and encounters to cryptidsroost@gmail.com. and if you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. I've also got a Facebook group, Twitter, Reddit, and you'll also find me on Discord. And if you'd like to support this channel and help make it grow, my PayPal is paypal.me/cryptidsroost. Again, that'll also be below. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.